So we're here right now. It's March the 7th, 2015, right here on the East Coast. I'm TstreT Controversy with Be Real TV. And basically, we're going to just start off and ease right into things. I'm going to say I am sold on Keith Thurman. Keith one-time Thurman, 25-0 with 21 KOs, is the future of the 147-pound division. And what I'm saying is this. I said in my last video with Be Real TV that basically I had to see him pass the Guerrero test. And when I talk about the Guerrero test, we're going to get into that deeper into the video. But as far as what I needed to see from him, as far as digging deep, as far as displaying skill and class on a grand scale, on national television, he did what he was supposed to do in all aspects of the fight. I'm TstreT Controversy. This is TstreT Controversy live on RealCombatMedia.com along with Be Real TV. You was right, man. You know, it's no better way to put it. Everything you said in the video we did, you were right, completely 100% right.
No, I understand why you said what you said and where you were coming from. But for me, like I was sold on Keith Thurman a long time ago because I really felt that this wasn't the test. I feel that the test that we didn't realize was Diego Chavez, as I said before. I felt that was his test. And I think that he performed in that fight, but at the time we didn't realize how good Diego Chavez is. But I think we understood how good Diego Chavez is after the Timothy Bradley fight and with his performances against Brandon Rios, and we realized that he's on that level and Keith Thurman knocked him out. So it really gave me an understanding and a grasp of how good Keith Thurman is on, and that's not the only fight, but the other fights, you just look at his overall career, and now we look at what he's done with Robert Guerrero. Keith Thurman is definitely 100% up there with the best of the welterweight division. I felt this going into the fight, and I feel it now. To be honest, this fight played out exactly how I thought it would play out. I said before that Keith Thurman is going to outbox Robert Guerrero and he might score a knockdown. He's got the power and Robert Guerrero is there to be hit. Robert Guerrero, he looked like the smaller fighter moving up. Like, as I said, guys, like Robert Guerrero is the fighter moving up. Thurman he looked the more established 147 fighter. He had more power. But there's something that I realized about Keith Thurman, and TstreT, I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, but the hand speed. Now, the hand speed for me was a little bit questionable because, as you can see, Keith Thurman isn't loading up on shots against Robert Guerrero. Now, Robert Guerrero is elite, but he's not the best of the 147 division. So I'm thinking to myself, if Keith Thurman faces a Timothy Bradley, an Amir Khan, a Manny Pacquiao, a Floyd Mayweather Jr., people who can really move, even a Devin Alexander who can move, Devin Alexander has a solid chin. What happens when Keith Thurman faces them guys? Because Keith Thurman did not seem like he could land with ease on Robert Guerrero as he could many other fighters. But, I mean, still, there was times in the fight where he did land and, you know, we saw the knockdown and, you know, Keith Thurman did bust up Robert Guerrero. But I just don't think that he, you know, I just feel like the hand speed is a little bit questionable for Keith Thurman on that elite level. What do you think?
I noticed that after combinations, he would drop his hands, and then that's when Robert Guerrero would tag him. Also, to touch on something a little bit that you spoke on earlier, Robert Guerrero came into the ring at 162 pounds, and technically he would be considered the smaller fighter, looking at the fact that Robert Guerrero has fought as low as 100 and, if I'm correct, 122. He was a champion at 126. And Keith Thurman has fought as high as over 147 pounds. So you had Guerrero come into the ring at 162, but then you had Keith Thurman come into the ring at 157 pounds.
Sorry, I think, yeah, Keith Thurman has fought 154 pounds before in the past as well.
Yeah. What it is I look at him as being if you're familiar with Errol Spence Jr., he's somewhat the same way. Keith Thurman is what I call a big 147-pound guy, but a small 154-pound guy, if that makes sense. So he's never, when he's fought at 154, it's always been at 151, 152, no more than 153. You know, so he's never weighed in at the full 154 pounds, but he can fight up there very comfortably, you know, outside of him being somewhat on the short end as far as height is concerned. But as far as hand speed is concerned, at 147 pounds, I did notice that even though Robert Guerrero at times was there to be hit still, I did see that Keith Thurman was looking, I don't want to say mediocre, but not up there where as far as hand speed, as far as when you look at Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Amir Khan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think like even I mean, you look at Sean Porter, you look at Devin Alexander, you look at Mayweather, you look at Khan, you look at Pacquiao, you look at Bradley. Now they are fast fighters, and I understand that speed can be cancelled out by timing, and I think Thurman definitely has that. But what happens if Thurman can't knock out a Devin Alexander, who was 305 in the amateurs, I believe, and Amir Khan, who has had a tremendous Olympic background? If he can't knock Amir out, if he can't knock out a Timothy Bradley, who's a good boxer. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I get where you're going with this, you know, like when he fights someone that's basically more of a well-rounded boxer, you know, like an Amir Khan, like a Devin Alexander, or a Timothy Bradley, you know, or someone that can match him with speed and as far as boxing IQ. And then we would have a Keith Thurman that would pretty much be reduced to, okay, well, if you have someone that's better than him or faster than speed-wise, you have someone that has a higher ring IQ or a better or a more experienced amateur background, then you would reduce Keith Thurman to basically having to win from his power, basically.
I agree, and I think that Keith Thurman definitely has it in him to knock guys out, but like for me, like if with Amir Khan's combinations, I definitely think Keith Thurman could throw in a big hard punch in that, a big right hand, and demolish Amir Khan. That one punch, he could get Amir Khan out of there. Could he do that with Bradley and Alexander? Now, that's a different story, because Bradley and Alexander are known as having granite chins. I mean, Alexander especially has a very solid chin, doesn't go down. What happens when Keith Thurman faces a fighter like that who he can't use? Because against Guerrero, I mean, what's usually happened is if Keith Thurman can't knock his fighter out, he just outboxes them. But I mean, if you're facing a fighter who's a better boxer than you and has a granite chin, that's what's going to really interest me next. For me, I think a lot of people are going to want to call the Maidana fight. For me, I want to see Keith Thurman up against a good boxer who's got a solid chin, and I think Alexander, Timothy Bradley, I think them two fighters are definitely stern tests. But I mean, can we make them fights against Bradley and Alexander? I mean, who do you think's next for Keith Thurman? Do you think it's going to be a Marcus Maidana with fans?
As far as Timothy Bradley, nope, I don't see it. As far as Devin Alexander, it's all about, will his management team, you know, or if you look at Haymon, would they put him in another fight where he could potentially lose, and this time put that topic on his career as far as you lost to Sean Porter, you lost to Amir Khan, and now you get knocked out by Keith Thurman, because that's pretty much how I see that fight going. Now, Keith Thurman against Marcos Maidana, yes, I see fans calling for that, and it's crazy. Just as he was talking about it, I was actually thinking to myself, yeah, you know what? Marcos Maidana, but Keith Thurman, with the body work that he does, I got Keith Thurman maybe finally being one of the people that could stop Marcos Maidana and keep Marcos Maidana down. Maybe, but see, Marcos Maidana has that Marcos Maidana factor, to whereas Marcos Maidana has a very good jab, and Marcos Maidana can hold his own in the middle of the ring if he feels. But as far as timing, Marcos Maidana, and, you know, with aggression, I don't know if Keith Thurman would be able to deal with that. That's another 50-50 fight for me. But at the same time, you have to give Marcos Maidana the credit that he deserves, because he's a guy that's fought Floyd Money Mayweather, the only guy to fight Floyd Money Mayweather twice. So, you know, that's a huge step up to me over Robert Guerrero if we see Keith Thurman versus Marcos Maidana. You know, so would that be next? Honestly, I don't think so, because I think that that's a fight that you can save up to be really, really big later on. And also, I'm pretty sure that Marcos Maidana at one point in time could have had Keith Thurman, but he did the right thing and held out. He got the rematch with Floyd Mayweather. But he would probably look at Keith Thurman now, well, I fought Mayweather twice, Robert Guerrero fought him once. I'm over both of you. You got to fight somebody else. So, who would possibly be next? I mean, you know, a Sean Porter, maybe. You know, after a big fight like this, it all depends. I'm thinking that, you know, even if it is going to be an NBC fight, it has to be high profile. I'm thinking that maybe the winner of Andre Berto versus Jose Zito Lopez, something like that. You know, or the winner of Sean Porter versus Roberto Garcia.
I don't personally want to see them fights. I want to see Marcus Maidana. I want to see Amir Khan. I want to see Kell Brook. I want to see the best of the welterweight division against Keith Thurman. I want to see Bradley. I want to see Alexander. They're the fights for Thurman I really want to see. But let's move on from Thurman a little bit. So we've talked about Thurman. I told you guys he's elite. The bottom line is, win or lose, Thurman's in there with the mix. I've been saying for a long time, Thurman is definitely up there. Do I think that he will remain unbeaten? I don't think he's going to remain unbeaten, but this is boxing, guys. Ali lost. Everybody, all the greats lost. The best fighters in history lost. The undefeated fighters like Joe Calzaghe have not gone down as the best fighters in history. It's the people who losses on the record. So don't buy into the whole 2015 boxing hype that we've got of undefeated records. I think Keith Thurman will eventually lose to someone, but he'll come back and he's a solid fighter. He'll put that fighter down to beat Thurman and not get knocked down. Like, that's a big ask for anyone. So definitely, I think Keith Thurman is going to be the top tier of the welterweight division.